Good evening and welcome to
turn it
my
down
wine
a bit?
tasting club. You will be
Danny,
delighted to know that we are here back once again, like the old days, in Tring. And this is Jamie.
Good evening, good evening. Yes, we are back in Tring, and if you can see behind me, we're doing online wine tasting club slightly live. Then we've got a few people down at the winery watching us on the TV. It's a bit Inception-y here, isn't it? It's lovely.
It certainly is. It certainly is. We are tonight going on a tour of California, and for those who've been tuning regularly, will know that I've just come back from a tour of California, which is lucky, isn't it? It's almost like we planned that.
It's almost like you haven't mentioned it.
Oh, I haven't mentioned that. Well, there are people here joining us for the first time. So for those of you who don't know us, I'm Alex. I am a winemaker, and this is Jamie, who is a sommelier.
Fantastic. So we've got lots to do today, and yes. California is A, epic, but B, very, very tough. We could have done California for the next 6 months over and over and over again. But before we start, what's probably important is to get the first two wines in our glass, because Alex got a little bit excited when he went to California, and he wanted to go, look at me, I'm going to film me, I'm going to film me. So what we've got in our opening video tonight is we've got a little bit of a tour of California like we normally do, a little bit of history, and then a little bit of roving reporting.
Yeah, a field
from
trip.
Mr.
Let's
Taylor.
call it a field trip from out in this amazing state. And I think there were some real discoveries. It was very different this time to the last time I went, which was just pre-pandemic. Frankly, it was 2019 April. I went.
It was a whole different decade.
It feels a lifetime ago. It's certainly a very different thing. But I certainly got the chance to go to visit J. Pinot Gris, the vineyards there up in Healdsburg, just sort of north the Russian River Valley. And so we're going to have a taste of that. We also have a Chardonnay, as my wonderful son would tell me, from the Napa Valley itself, because we couldn't not go to the Napa Valley. But for reasons that will become obvious, we haven't spent all our time there, and we're saving much of the Napa Valley, and particularly Cabernet Sauvignons, for a separate tasting, which is very exciting.
You learn a new thing every day, don't you? So yeah, the two wines we have, we've got J. This right now, it's purely on this label. It's California AVA. They're based in the Russian River, but they do have vineyard sites all around the area. So what you've got with the rules and regulations is for something to be labelled as a particular AVA, 85% of those wines, those grapes, have to come from that region. So they've got some
AVA is an American viticultural area, which is a posh way of saying the place it comes from.
It's a bit of land, that they've decided.
A bit like an AOC in France, or those kind of things.
Yeah, absolutely. So they're based in Russian River, but do have some vineyards elsewhere. So this comes in and is blended. And then we've got the Longmeadow Farmstead Ranch Chardonnay from Napa Valley. These guys based in Napa, but do also have some holdings in other places. But all the grapes that go into this are from Napa Valley. And just before we go into the video, just interesting, when we talk about America, we always go to California. And California does make 90% of America's wine. But there's lots and lots and lots of little pockets
everywhere.
And we all hear of Napa Valley. Napa Valley only makes 4% of California wine. So tiny.
I'm going to quickly pull up this map, because this is mad. What you see here is every sort of one of these tiny little regions on here. Every one of those tiny bits of text, bonus points if you can read it, represents an entire different area that's recognised as growing something unique in style. And there are more than 100 grapes grown there. So it's a big region. We can't hope to do it justice tonight, but we're going to give it our best shot. So we've got a nice long video that the wonderful Naomi, my wife, has put together for us, and drink along with that. If you've not used us before, you will notice that there is this towtc.co.uk/taste. And what that allows you to do is to put up your tasting notes, and we can all compare in a big word cloud of what we think of this wine.
So we're gonna pop that up for wine number one while we do the video. Once we get back in the studio, we'll talk about wine number one quickly, and we'll put the word cloud up for wine number two. So without further ado, let's drink some wine and have a video.
I've been coming pretty regularly to California for a few years now. It was here while I was sitting at the bar in the Hitching Post restaurant featured in the film Sideways, surrounded by people who worked making barrels, growing grapes, making wine, that I truly got that wine was a thing made by real people, not just some faceless factory. California to me is the story of pioneers of the rush to break new ground. Just as the 49ers chased gold, winemakers have long headed to California to seek out perfect grape growing conditions and the opportunity to express their creativity, free from the restrictive rules of other regions. grapes were brought over by the Franciscans more than 240 years ago, so there's proper history here. In 1880, the University of California set up a dedicated research department which went on to become UC Davis, one of the top places to learn winemaking in the world. However, phylloxera started to hit hard only a few years later, and then in 1919, Prohibition banned the production and sale of alcoholic beverages, apart from communion wine. Strangely, there was a big increase in the production of communion wine as well as sales of kits of grapes and yeast, but that wasn't enough to stop the industry from being decimated. After the law was repealed in 1934, the industry had a long uphill battle to grow again, and was really only famous for making table wine until 1976, when an Englishman, Stephen Spurrier, smuggled some Californian wines into Paris and arranged a blind tasting against the best of Burgundy and Bordeaux, with the top wine critics of France doing the judging. California won handily, and after this judgment of Paris, the reputation changed overnight. Today there are more than 3,000 wineries and more than 100 different grape varieties grown, and its reputation goes from strength to strength. Californian wine, in particular Napa, is a tale of success. This is where people sell their tech company for billions, retire, and then open up an elaborate winery. Take this castle owned by the Satui family, built for $43 million from bricks imported from Italy. Fancy. The problem is that Napa has got rather pricey. With big investors investing big money, they expect a return. And locally, they're competing on the shelf next to expensive imported wine. When American wines come over here, that is flipped around, and suddenly they look really expensive. So on my recent road trip, I wanted to explore some places that might offer better value than Napa. We started off in the Santa Cruz Mountains. On the north side, Ridge, one of the most famous wineries in California and one of the winners of the Judgment of Paris, sits on Monte Bello, overlooking Silicon Valley. Award-winning wine, but Silicon Valley prices. If you make your way over the ridge towards the Pacific and Santa Cruz, things become a bit more reasonable and still has excellent quality. We then moved down the coast to the cooler Monterey area. We've featured wines from here before, amazing Pinot Noir and Chardonnay, cooled by the Pacific breezes and the mist. Our next stop was up in the Sierra Nevada mountains. When you cross the Central Valley, you find plenty of grapes growing, but it has very little rainfall, so needs irrigation. Water is a huge problem here, and the farmers are clearly desperate over the combined effects of a warming climate and a government determined, for very good reasons, to keep its rivers flowing. But unfortunately, this has come at the farmer's cost. As we climbed up into the Sierra foothills, things got much cooler and greener. We peaked at over 7,000 feet. This is proper cowboy and gold rush country. As a wine region, it's very much off the radar, but I would argue it's worth keeping an eye on. Syrah in particular was my standout variety here. After heading along this range up to the staggering Lake Tahoe, we headed back inland to Napa, where we wanted to check how bad things had got. Unfortunately, this is definitely a rich man's playground now. Everything has been gentrified. Even the most humble of places to stay has gone up nearly 10 times in price since my first visit. In fact, we looked around and we could have paid $7,000 to stay 3 nights in a Butlin-style chalet, albeit with better weather and food. To check out a classically Napa story and winery, I went to Clos Pegase to try some wines made from the classic Bordeaux grapes. So I'm here at Clos Pegase. I'm going to go in and taste some things they're doing in the centre of the Napa Valley, right at the Calistoga end. So this winery was designed in 1984 by the architect Michael Graves, and it has a 20,000 square foot cellar. On one hand, Napa is the story of many people who've made their wealth often in other industries and who've come to the Napa Valley to follow their passion in wine. Clos Pegase is one of those exactly. Jan Schrem and his wife Mitsuko, they came over after many years of translating English books and publishing them into Japanese in Japan, and came over here to follow their passion for wine and art. And they have created some quite brilliant wines here at Clos Pegase. It's beautiful, but there is another side to Napa. Now, the thing about the Californians is that they innovate. Calistoga has always been the cheaper, more creative end of the valley. Here I found a disused Art Deco petrol station, that had been turned into a beautiful urban winery and tasting room, doing cool, out-there blends with grapes I'd never even heard of before. So what can you do if you can't afford Napa? Well, head west. We stayed near the wonderful town of Sebastopol, the gateway to the Russian River region. Our first stop was in the really cool area of the Barlow in downtown Sebastopol. It's full of breweries, restaurants, craft shops, and yes, wine tastings. Here I found a winery that Jamie loves, it turns out, called Pax. It's based in an industrial unit making wine from other people's grapes. Sounds like a familiar concept, that. The highlights for me were an incredibly funky Trousseau Gris and some cool Sonoma Coast Syrah that you could have been tricked for thinking was from France.
So this is the Russian River. Here we are in a kind of California which is a very different one to that of the Valley. Here we are surrounded by lush green forests, the tall redwoods and the mist rolls in from the Pacific Ocean. It really creates a vastly different climate. It's a lot colder here, and that means very different grapes.
You can follow the Russian River right down to the coast, but most of the top vineyards are on the road, heading north from Sebastopol towards Healdsburg. Here I stopped to visit J Vineyards.
I am here at J Vineyards, which is just outside Healdsburg. Now, if we look at the sky, it's classic blue Californian heat and delightful sunshine, but it was not like that this morning at all. In fact, most of the time I've been here, it has been cold and wet, and these are not qualities we generally associate with Napa Valley, with Sonoma, and certainly not with the Californian styles of wine. But what it is good for is growing things like Pinot Gris, and so sure enough, here at J Vineyards they make 2 incredible Pinot Gris. And what I have done today is to taste both of those, and we're going to be featuring one of them in the show, and I'm going to bring a bottle back for Jamie to try the other one, so we can just have a look at the differences. We also have looked at some of their Chardonnays and their Pinot Noirs, which is obviously what this region is most famous for. The Chardonnay was quite extraordinary. It was beautifully balanced. The Pinot Noirs were perhaps the most interesting because we tried 3 different ones. One from the Petaluma Gap, which as I drove through it, it was noticeable how low and how misty and foggy and also windy at the same time it was. So the wind blows away and clears off all of the diseases that might otherwise gather with all that damp around. That had a very Burgundian style. There was a little bit of whole bunch going on in there, which gave it that sort of slightly cherry-like flavour, but absolutely beautiful wine. We then went on to what they called the Strata. That, as the roots of the vines go through the different layers of the soil, you get a real flavour of what the different kind of things going on the Russian River soil are. You have a little bit of clay down there, you have a little bit of chalk, you have a little bit of volcanic ash as well from the ancient volcanic eruptions. So you get this whole sort of set of different characters coming in. We also tried their Barrel 16 Pinot Noir, and that again was where they cracked out a bit more of the more expensive oak. And this was really the winemaker's selection, and she is an absolute expert at oak because it was spot on. All in all, cracking vineyard, really famous for their sparkling wines, which we also do have in the shop. But yeah, I hope you're going to enjoy the Pinot Gris, and we'll talk a bit more about the estate Pinot Gris, which has just a little bit more texture to it and obviously is a bit more expensive. So that is enough from Jay. Bye for now.
So where did that leave me other than with a very full suitcase of wine? Well, Napa remains as world-class as it has been for years. In fact, it continues to develop and is now being much more creative and doing things a lot more than just Cabernet and Chardonnay. But for people without very deep pockets, it is a tough sell. The good news is that you do not need to go too far to find cool, funky or classically delicious wines. California really does have it all, and you could literally spend years exploring it. We hope you have a fun time tonight trying a tiny subset of the many different styles this stunning state produces.
And welcome back.
I'm glad people like my shirt.
Yes,
And
it's
it
very
seems
good.
I have more than one.
Thank you. Yes. Well, I might have a little surprise for later in the show, but who knows? Anyway, the main point is we've got this delicious Pinot Gris, which is a really cool representation of this cooler side to California, which again, so many people don't associate it because you only have to go a few miles away. You travel a few miles to the east and suddenly, guess what? You get a rain shadow again. It so happens, of course, it's the same group of mountains that goes all the way down from that tip, right down through on that west side of both North America and South America. The cold air comes in from the Pacific. It drops the rain on the west side of the mountain, and on the east side, you get a much hotter, drier thing. So when you get to Napa, it is so much warmer than you are in the Russian River, and yeah,
it's an absolutely different world. And when you go there, you can be in San Francisco in the morning, and it can be cold and wet and raining, and you drive up and you get into Napa just late morning, lunchtime, and you're suddenly there's a 10-degree shift there. It's absolutely insane. And then you come back across, end up in Sonoma, and it's cooled down. And what we're starting to see in California, we should put the word cloud up while it says it. And see what we had
very good point.
In the first one. But what we're starting to see in California is you're getting more and more and more of these smaller and smaller AVAs, where we're finding these little pockets of microclimates. There's just another one in Sonoma. There's Western Sonoma now has its own AVA. Absolutely. So within Sonoma, you've got Sonoma Mountain, Sonoma County, Russian River Valley. So you've got all these sub-AVAs, and it's getting similar to what you see in, Burgundy, not with the classification system, but each little pocket seems to be its own thing. So
I was just amazed at the diversity of things that is being made there now. When I've been in past years, you've got a slightly different version of a Bordeaux blend or a slightly different version of a Chardonnay. It was really different. I'd like to just quickly highlight a comment that Finn made in the chat, which was a really important one, which is Stephen Spurrier, the guy who organised the Judgment of Paris. Of course, there was the classic Judgment of Paris, but this in the wine world is the Judgment of Paris. And he passed away very sadly during the lockdown. He has his own vineyards in England, Bride Valley.
Bride Valley in Dorset,
in Dorset. But a really great man and an utterly lovely man as well. So very, very sad that he's passed away. But he truly did single-handedly change the American wine industry.
Without a question of a doubt. But so what do we say with this first wine? So Jay, they've been around since 1986. So they're relatively new in the wine world, but kind of relatively old in California winemaking. So it's an interesting kind of thing. But this winery, when I first got into wine, when I moved to the States, this was one of the first wineries that really it was by the glass on the list I was doing. Their sparkling's fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
The Gris is great drinking. They make fantastic Chardonnay. Their Pinot Noir just won a couple of gold medals. So they make really good stuff across the board.
Really
so
Alex, I thought it'd be quite good because
Alex has told me, and so you can put in the chat and bully him and be mean.
Say, shut up, Alex. Why are you doing this? We can't drink it. So
he decided on his trip to California, he's brought me back a bottle of the Russian River Valley Pinot Gris. So from is that on the estate? Yes?
It is. I mean, it's a big size estate, but obviously they use estate fruit in the California one, but they also source in from other really great vineyards as well. But it's very interesting to see a very different style from the same producer, from the same grape, and largely from the same grapes.
And what is interesting here is you can tell it's the same grape. You can tell it's the same producer, but the two wines are vastly different.
Yeah, this is a bit more Alsatian in style.
The one in the glass is bright, it's fresh, it's drinking, it's lovely, it's sitting sunshine dirt, and the estate fruit a little bit richer, a little bit waxiness to it almost.
Yes, exactly. Just that bit heavier as well.
But you look at the tasting notes here, we're lime, we're pineapple, we're all that kind of stuff. But I think it's a nice, bright, fresh wine to start the tasting off with.
Grilled pineapple, that's a good tasting note. I like that, yeah.
Absolutely.
But different expressions of the same grape is always a really cool thing from the same producer. Then I think we've got a slightly higher alcohol on the estate one, which brings us on to the Chardonnay, which, of course, is a very different style of wine. This is what Napa Valley is so famous for. And we've got some comments on the alcohol levels of number 2. Now, there has to be a bit of a proviso here because the alcohol level it says on the label isn't necessarily right.
So it's not wrong, but there's some is it fair to say, wiggle room in the labelling?
There's wiggle room.
You can have
Yeah.
a degree percentage of wiggle room one way or the other on an American wine label. I think with wine one, you've got this kind of light, fresh fruitiness, and you've got that sweet fruit that kind of will mask a level of alcohol. With wine two, with what Simon's just put up here, you've got, it's a more kind of, with the oakiness in there, you've got more of these kind of secondary flavors, these winemaking flavors. And with that, you're more likely to feel the heat because it's not getting masked by sweet style of fruit. But this is quintessentially California Chardonnay. This is, if you're sat at a blind tasting, you get a California Chardonnay, this is what you want it to be. Yes, there was this, California rush in the 90s and 2000s where it was, how much oak can we put into a glass? And you've got this really dark, yellow coloured Chardonnay that we saw in California, we saw in Australia, and it made oak the enemy for a lot of people. It's like, I don't like oak, I don't like oak, I don't like oak. And not realising that some of the best white wines in the world, in Burgundy, use oak. It's that careful hand of oak. And there are some very big oaky wines that I like. Mm-hmm. I think what's very important is not all oak is created equal, whether it's oak barrels, oak staves, oak chips, oak powder, essence of oak.
This uses a bit of oak staves, doesn't it? Which is interesting because normally I'd be going, Satan, that's not what we want to do. But I think they've done it. What they've used is a cheaper style of oak, but they've used a high quality of oak. So you don't get the kind of benefits of the barrel in some ways, but equally you don't get the losses of the barrel in other ways, because when you've got a barrel, a certain amount of oxygen seeps into it and destroys some of the subtle flavours. Now, I do agree with the point that the alcohol is slightly overpowering the fruit, but I still really like it. I think it's very, very pleasant indeed. But the problem for me with this one, I can't say it without giving it away, but it's from Napa Valley. So, is it going to be cheap?
I'm guessing you're going to say no.
I'm going to say no, but it's certainly good value. But it's at the cheaper end of the Napa Valley spectrum, that's for sure. But yeah, it's a tough one. It is a really tough one because you could go just down the road and get Chardonnay that's perhaps as good but isn't Napa Valley, and that's why we put this in.
But I think there's so much of the world though, isn't there, that you pay the price for something that says Chablis or it says Rioja or it says Bordeaux or it
Provence
says Cru or whatever on it. That happens, but I think 2 is absolutely classically Napa Valley Chardonnay, and it's the thing. There's certain styles of wine in the world that have a style and a name, and you pay the price for it.
And here we have it. So I'm not a massive Chardonnay fan in general. I think this is very pleasant. And that for me is it in a nutshell, that there is such a different variety of styles in there. But then we've also got Mark, who doesn't like this one. He loves number 1. So horses for courses. Wine is so personal. So absolutely. There you go. We've got our first 2 wines done, and I hope you've enjoyed them. Quite clearly, the big dominant factor there is oak and vanilla that people are saying, but it's not over oak. There's plenty of of citrus, green tomato. I'm not sure I'm getting, but yeah, it's a very, very pleasant drink, and it's a food drink. Chardonnay, oak Chardonnay is a food drink.
Without a question.
It's not just a sip it on your own drink. This is a drink that you want to have with some rich, creamy seafood where everything matches. So it's not quite the same as judging it against a just have a nice drink of it thing.
Cool. I think that's anything from the chat.
That's a very specific guess there, Finn. I like that. Real IBP is about 14.3. I like that.
What's it say on the bottle?
It says 13.5.
13.5 on the bottle.
But there is wiggle room. So I'd say there's a distinct possibility of that. A lot of the time it's done to get under tax boundaries because, and as you know, we're about to get this new tax regime in the UK if it doesn't change, that the higher the alcohol, the higher tax you pay on it. And I kind of don't disagree with it.
There's tax boundaries and there's also perception. And it's swinging from one way to the other. 10 years ago, it used to be push it up to as high as you could without paying more because you wanted to be 15%, 15.5%. You wanted to be big. Ooh, yeah, go. Chardonnay, Cab.
I remember I've literally spoken to people who said to me, Do you know what? You can forget everything about the price. If you want to know what's a good wine, look at the alcohol percentage. If it's got a high alcohol percentage, it's a better wine. I'm like, that's a viewpoint.
That is one.
It's one
option.
viewpoint, for
One
sure.
option.
And the punch, yes. And of course, the heaviness of the glass, of course, because that makes a
Also
massive difference
very
to the bottle.
important.
But we should probably move on to wine number 3, because wine number 3 is a bit different. I have not come across this grape outside of northern Italy. And it's a tricky one, isn't it?
Oh, is it a tricky one? Not really. Not really. It's so we are Segasia, and this is a grape called Arnace. Yeah, you can pour this. And
All right.
so Segasia family, Italian family that came over here in the 60s and started applying, and they brought Italian grapes with them. So they do this Arnace, which you really only find in Piedmont, really, in Italy is where you find it. Anywhere else that makes it of, kind of like a commercial amount. I'm sure there's someone somewhere else in California or Australia doing it, because there's always someone who are the outliers. But generally, you're talking about an Italian grape. So they brought over Italian varietals. So they grow Arnace and they grow Zinfandel, which is obviously Primitivo. And I just think this, I've worked with this previously, and I just think it's an absolutely wonderful wine. It's cool, it's interesting, it's got texture, it's got this grapefruit thing, and you can sit and that is amazing. And can I tell you, this is what the online wine tasting club should be all about. Here's something cool that you might not have seen before. You've got a little pouch of it, and you're going to give it a go and go, guess what? I've now had
tried that.
a Californian Arnace.
Tick.
So we're back in the Russian River Valley. So we went from Russian River to Napa, and now we're coming back in. So this is kind of, it's a little bit cooler climate, and this is why you get this acidity and this elegance. They do a fair chunk of lees, which is what gives you the texture behind here. And the sad news is it has stopped being imported by my supplier. So the 6 bottles that I have in stock
This is the last
is all that's left. I'm
yeah.
like, I want to do this on this and this. And then I tried to order it to pack it up, and they're like, this is all we've got. I'm like, fine, I shall take it all. I will take it all.
I'd love to show you on this map how little distance we've gone, but we can't really, because I think it's pretty much all hidden on this map. So it's, we've gone such a small distance on this map, but that tells you how big California is, really. But it's a confusing one, which is what you always get, I think, when you're trying a new wine. And what are these flavors? What can't you place? There's something a bit like grass. There's something, for me, there's something a little bit soapy, perhaps, to the nose, which not in a bad way. A nice soap.
A nice soap. What? Like, which one? Daz.
Oh. Neighbours.
A nice soap. Wow, you're tasting that. You've been away too long, haven't you? You need to get back on form. But yeah, it's interesting, and it sounds really snobby when I say it. It smells like an Arnace, but
Yeah.
it's not something that I think lots of people have heard. Oh yeah, I get that as an Arnace. It kind of has got a nose, I think, with that, and I get that soapiness, that kind of florally, kind of lemony lavender thing.
Yeah.
It's almost a little for a grape that you might be a bit more familiar with, almost like a Torontes from Argentina. It's got that kind of nose on it, but then a much richer.
Yeah, it's much richer in the mouth. Yeah.
Yeah. Whoever's put waxy in there, it's got that texture. That's really good. But yeah, very floral. It's got this waxy texture. Yeah, sherbet lemons, absolutely.
And
some really good
as
tasting
well.
notes
So
there.
I mean, this is obviously something that grows in the foothills of the Alps, basically, in its native Italy. And here we are in forests, not particularly mountainous in the Russian River Valley, but it's a little bit hilly, and you've got plenty of different aspects. So it is a very John T's made a very good point. It is a temperament grape. It is known as a bit of a trouble to grow. So does that mean that the next time we taste it, it will be totally different? But not for sure, but there's a pretty good chance that it will be quite different.
Not for sure. What's interesting is this compared to drinking out of Piedmont. Piedmont, I feel, has much bigger swings in terms of, because you're a little bit more inland, you get these bigger swings based on vintages. Whereas if you go to Russian River, where you've got more of the tempering factor of A, the Pacific Ocean, and B, the Russian River, I think with this particular grape, somewhere like Russian River, you're going to have more chance of consistency than you are
Yeah.
out of Italy. Yeah, completely agree with Fit. Yeah, seafood dish,
what a
that kind
food
of, you know,
wine, definitely.
it's got the acidity for fresh fish. It's got that richness. If you had a little lemon butter sauce or something
Yeah.
like that on it, it would cut through a little bit of cream.
I think it's not quite like the Chardonnay, which you'd go with a slightly stronger flavoured thing.
No, Chardonnay,
Yeah.
that, isn't it?
This is, it would cope with those subtle flavours of a subtle flavoured fish and be wonderful.
We could have a horrible tasting and go, it has a powerful elegance.
It has a powerful. That means
That
not
means
much. Really.
nothing.
It's like yeah.
Has it got balance?
Does it have balance? I'd say it has. It has balance of a sort for sure. There's nothing that sticks out to me as it's unusual, but it's very pleasant. It's really, really good food wine. So
I did use the tasting note last week. It's as balanced as two badgers on a seesaw. I thought you'd like that one.
for me, one of I had some pretty crazy wines. The Trousseau Gris was, a one that I'd never tried before. You're probably going to say, "Oh yeah, I try those every day," but
Not every day. Just
not
a
every day,
couple of
just
times a week.
most days of the week. Another one which was a blend of, like I said, many different grapes that I've never heard of, and some that I have, but all put together in the Napa Valley, and then done in a Beaujolais Nouveau style. A white wine made in a Beaujolais Nouveau style, carbonically. How do you even? Does that not turn it into an orange wine? Very weird, very weird.
And I think this
But
is
very cool.
I think this is the point of this. We start with the Gris. We went on to how many badgers did you spot in the background though?
Purple violets.
But anyway, back to my
Nice.
point. I got distracted by badgers for a second. We did a Gris, we did a Chardonnay, and then we've gone something a little bit different than Arnaise. And what is, I think, great about California and New World wines in general, you can be hit or miss, and you really rely on who the producer is and what happens.
Yeah.
But there's such this joy of being able to experiment that you
You're
can
not
go.
bound by the rules.
You can go, you know what? I'm going to plant a row of
Yeah.
Tempranillo, see what happens. I'm going to do some Dornfelder if I want to. And it's not, you're stuck with the DOCG rules or the AOP
You'd have to
rules.
be fairly mad to want to
and-
Dornfelder, but yeah.
And, you look at the DOCG rule and you can go outside them, but then you're making table wine. But the fact is, California seems to do this really, they're very good at like marketing their wine and making it seem so small production and creating this almost like cult
Oh, yeah.
status on so many wines that
But a lot of the vineyards are tiny. When you drive past them, these are little individual plots. They were, we're dealing with land that was split up, of course, and whatever the rights and wrongs of that were by these settlers who came across and they fought their way through the mountain ranges and they came through and obviously these guys have bought an existing estate, but it was really interesting going up into the Sierra foothills, where of course it's not such a big commercial deal. I think the two vineyards that I checked out had an average size of 6 acres. I mean, 6 acres, that's absolutely
that's
nothing.
making what, 6,000 bottles?
Yeah, maybe
if you're
6,000
lucky.
bottles if you're lucky. But of course, that 6 acres down in Napa is millions. That 6 acres up in the Sierra foothills is maybe
less.
a couple of 100,000. So it becomes into the realms of what the normal person can go and do and explore and experiment. And that's those kind of that new gold rush that's going on. Let's go and see. Let's try to create the new AVA, new region, the new big thing. And I love it. I love
And I think
that
what's really nice,
creativity.
if you ever get a chance to get out there, you end up in the tasting rooms and suddenly a bottle of like Barbera turns up,
Yeah.
and it's like, I didn't know you
But
made that.
What's it?
I've been doing these wines for years in my wine bars and restaurants and stuff, and I didn't know you made a Barbera. Oh yeah, we only make about 100 bottles of it. We just keep it for the tasting room.
That's a good question. We should be moving on to wine number 4, but yes, is a special microclimate the only requirement for a new AVA?
The short answer is no.
It's a fight, isn't it?
There is a fight that you have to prove that the land, the style, the grapes are unique to the area. So microclimate is helpful, but it can be a different aspect. It can be a different soil type. It can be lots of it, and it's the same with any other kind of wine-related question in the world.
Yeah,
There's the
really good question.
it depends, and what we're starting to see is you've got your bigger AVAs. So take Napa for example. You're then you're in Napa, and then you're getting your sub AVA. So you're getting Atlas Peak, Diamond Mountain, those Stag's Leap, etc., etc. So we're starting to see more of those. That someone's in a particular little valley and they're going for it. And, you look at West Sonoma that's just become an AVA, and if you taste
video, that's interesting. It seems to be working fine here. You can see it through there. Well, that's working good. Well, that's good. Okay, we got some people commenting the video had lost. We're looking through to the a bit of an Inception thing. Our video on the screen through there, that's still going. I'm glad it's back now. Good. Sorry about that. The joys of streaming.
So,
but yeah, wonderful tasting notes, and that's probably the most interesting taste word cloud that I've seen from one of the ones that we've put up. So really well done, guys. Cool work. Not Starburst. Opal Fruit's not Starburst, I'm guessing was the thingy. Should we try some reds? Because I feel that it's a great idea. So I think for anyone who wants to, we should pour a wine number 4.
Wine number 4. But before you can start drinking it.
Yeah.
But we've got a little video. We usually do this on Discoverers, but we've got our friends at Al Passion who have tasted some wines we go through, and they've sent us a little video of what they're doing over in the vineyards at the moment. So
and
we
of course,
thought
this has been harvest time. So
exactly. So we thought we would give you a little bit of an update of what's going on there. Get some red in your glass, and we shall be back momentarily.
Brilliant.
Hi, my name is Kathy. I'm one of the founders and investors in Al Passion Vineyard, which is located in the UK Valley in Mendoza, Argentina. And I'm also a member of the Online Wine Tasting Club, and I'm based here in the UK. What I'm going to do is to provide you with an update from the vineyard, which we're doing every month.
And want to make it out of Syrah. So at the moment we're having them separate to analyze or taste both and see which one we like the most. Yeah. And we may decide to blend it in the end.
Get the Syrah with the Merlot.
Or to leave it separate, or we just say, okay, we like the Syrah better, so we don't do anything with the Merlot, we will go back to a tank of a blend or whatever. So at the moment it's still experimental to see how they develop, and then we will decide what to do.
So this is a Shiraz, which is the other grape we were trying out for rosé. We've got the Shiraz in the glass, so we're now going to try and blend in some of the Merlot. See what it's like. Interesting. This is the barrel room, and we're going to try some Malbec that's been matured in 2 different ways, which Gabby will tell you about in a minute. We're now tasting the 2021 Malbec that's been barreled for 12 months under 2 treatments, and this one has the normal sulfites added. And this barrel is from the same Malbec from the same year, that has been treated with rubos instead of sulfites.
Like I said, they were harvested at the same time from the same plot, put in the barrels at the same time. And from the beginning, this one, which is the one that has the natural sulfites, developed quicker than the other one. Yeah. The other one you feel that still needs time in the barrel. This one is ready to bottle.
I think so. Yeah.
Yes, so we will bottle this one in April when we finish the harvest. We will bottle most of the barrels, and we will leave one to see how it continues to evolve. Because what the winemakers are seeing is that it developed very quickly, it went up, but it can also start going down very quickly.
Okay, so you need to take it just at the right.
Exactly, and you need to also probably drink it quicker than the regular Malbec.
see you next month for the next update from Al Pachon Vineyard in Mendoza, Argentina.
Hello, welcome back. Yes. So there's been a costume change.
So, well, the next wine. This is Sandy, and we are down in Santa Barbara in the Santa Rita Hills, and this is a Pinot Noir made by a sommelier and a fantastic winemaker. There's Sashi Mormon, who is an absolutely world-class winemaker.
Fantastic wine. Oh, where's that? I don't know.
So Sashi, absolutely fantastic, and another guy called Raj Par. If you don't know what Raj Par looks like,
Just check out my shirt.
it's this guy.
These guys are legends.
Alex, who is a Pinot Noir fan, is
Well, put it this way:
obsessed.
as you know, my love of Pinot Noir started in Burgundy, and of course, aged Pinot Noirs are a wonderful, wonderful thing. This is a very different style, but it's on the Burgundian style of American Pinot Noirs for sure. A lot of American Pinot Noirs have got a lot of, for example, Zinfandel in them. Let's put that out there. They do. Genuinely, you can have up to sort of 15% of another grape variety in and still call it Pinot Noir. And they love the fact that you know, these bigger wines have got a bit more colour, intensity, a bit more of the sort of the big fat fruit that people don't like to say they love, but they do. This is pure Pinot Noir primarily from the Domaine de la Côte
vineyards. Yeah, absolutely. So they make this, and then they have a bunch of single vineyards as well. They have Bloomsfield, they have Domaine de la Côte, and the stuff goes, you know, and it's not the stuff that doesn't make the cut goes into this. They choose the blend and say this plus this plus this equals the house style, and then the single vineyards do what it does.
So we put this wine up as just as an interesting experiment. We did a blind tasting, and we put in a Premier Cru Burgundy Pinot Noir against this because we'd seen this. We can't not talk about films in this part of the world because there's one film which was Somme 3. You should go and look it up. It's a brilliant film if you're interested in wine. Somme 3, they tried to recreate that Judgment of Paris. And all of these amazing sommeliers were trying to bring new old wines to the table and try to compare them and see what played out and what were the favourite wines of proper top wine experts. And Jancis Robinson picked Domaine de la Côte, these same vineyards, over Grand Cru Burgundies. She absolutely picked those things. So it is a different style, but it's really good wine.
Yeah, so they've been doing this project since 2010, and it's about the balance between man, earth, and vine, and that's what they said. And you know, the pursuit of balance.
You've met them, haven't you?
I've met Sashi and Ashley and Rod. Yeah. So I did a fantastic.
I've been to the winery.
Well done.
It's an industrial unit.
It's an industrial unit.
Yeah.
That's the best place for a winery, is what I hear. There's a note on there why it's slightly cloudy. The wine is unfined and unfiltered. So there's two things that you have that. And because when we repack and we ask you to chuck it in the fridge, sometimes when you chill a red wine, you end up with a little bit of sediment releasing itself from there. So you'll
but mine's slightly cloudy as well. We could go and get.
But I'm saying it's unfined, unfiltered. So
I know, absolutely, and that's quite why it should be. That's the fundamental reason is it's unfined and unfiltered, which are the processes that we put wines through. What we were meeting with the Master of Wine today, the wonderful Ray from Naked Wines, and he was talking about stripping, and that is one of the things that when you put wine through these. Well, that's appropriate because he worked for Naked, obviously.
Oh, you've got Naked and stripping. This is Adventure Sunshine. It's not Silly Badgers level.
I know, it's no Silly Badgers, but stripping is it's talking about you've got a full dent, like all of this complexity of flavours that are going out, and you start seeing this in beers as well now. Beers come out unfined, and you know that there are those who really strongly believe that if you try to make the wine really clear, you're losing a lot of the complexity.
If you want a wonderful, wonderful poetic thing, I was once at a wine dinner with Yes, what a shirt. Wine tasting with a California winery, Farniente, and they have a single vineyard brand called Nickel and Nickel. And the winemaker at the time, we asked a question: why don't you fine? Why don't you filter? And this was about 15 years ago. And he turned around and said, because every time you fine and filter, you take away a part of the wine's soul. And it is. And to the question on there, can you or would you age this? Can you? Yes. Would I? No, because I don't have any patience and I want to drink it right now.
So the other ones from their range. So if you had like a La Côte from Domaine de la Côte, they're slightly more premium range, made in exactly the same winery, in exactly the same place, from exactly the same vineyards. That's their single vineyard project. Yes.
Yeah,
I'd
10,
age that.
15 years, easy.
Easy. But this one is designed to be more approachable, to be drunk now. And that's why it's such a different style from those.
And I think you
Burgundies
could
that
hang
we're
on
talking
to this for 3-5 years and you'd see some of those tertiary developmental characteristics come through into it. But
They should. I need to get in touch with them because I had this custom made for. Yes, I'm probably going to get sued by Raj.
to be fair, that could be a good thing, couldn't it? It's like we will feature your wine on the online wine tasting club if you send Alex a shirt.
Quite right.
I think that's great.
Porcini mushroom risotto with truffle shaving. Now that to me is, we know Finn's pairings are normally pretty good.
I think Finn needs to start sending us dinner before each tasting.
But
have a look in the box, see what we've got, and send us dinner, Finn. That would be great.
So let's look at that pairing because that's quite an interesting thing. So porcini mushrooms, truffle, umami. So for those of you probably all heard of umami. That is this Japanese extra sense of flavour that there is, the deliciousness,
meatiness.
Yeah. And this is a classic one, and it's all come through from the fact that this is has got a wide variety of yeast that they use from the vineyards, and they try to build this forest floor like complexity. And yes, it can match porcini mushrooms and truffle shavings, that mushroom family. It's only got 2 years of age on it, but it's already starting to develop those things that we normally associate with quite expensive aged wines.
I think this sits in a wonderful middle ground because, and this is purely personal preference, sometimes California goes too over the top and it's too rich and it's too big. And then sometimes Burgundy is too much about terroir and earthiness and it loses all the fruit. I think this is that. And sometimes when people do things down the middle without going to one extreme or the other, it loses something. But I think this is just, and I'm going to say balance again. It's this beautiful balance of old world style with new world techniques. It's got great fruit, elegance, tannin. I'm going to go back and balance again. It's an absolute phenomenal drop of juice.
It's wonderful. And I think, to be honest, compared to the Burgundies, I think it's great value.
So the more
I was
premium
trying to
ones,
look up how much La Côte is now.
About 90 quid.
90 quid. Wow. Okay.
So you double the price.
Yeah, it's probably actually even a bit more now as well. So yeah, that was the question to how much is their more premium one. So yeah, if you look up Domaine de la Côte, or even their Santa Rita Hills
that's
one,
it. And that's if you can get any.
If you can get it.
Such small production.
It's interesting. Something like drawing. Well, again, all flavors are very subjective, but this one is definitely.
Stranders get you.
Yeah,
Scales
I want to
out.
drink that.
Balance.
Yeah, I know.
So the other film we should mention just briefly before we move on is because it's a nice segue to wine number 5. And that is, of course, the film Sideways. And the film Sideways was filmed in the Santa Ynez Valley, which is goes from sort of west to east or east to west, probably from east to west. There's a big lake up in the hills, and it runs down from that to the sea. It goes through the villages of Solvang, Buellton, Lompoc, which is where their winery is, all the way to the sea.
Lovingly known as the Lompoc Wine Ghetto.
The Lompoc Wine Ghetto. And it's right next to the big launch space for Air Force rockets that's right down there. It's a pretty crazy part of the world. Lompoc's most known for the fact it's got a big prison. and a wine ghetto. And this wine ghetto is an incredibly creative place where people just go and they can just buy in some grapes and play with making a barrel and do it in a custom crush place, or just rent a spot and borrow the press for a while. It's amazing. It's something I've never seen. And the film Sideways came out in the early 2000s. I can't remember exactly when. I went over in 2006 and I went to the restaurant in which Miles, the lead character, meets this waitress, Maya. And I just sat at the bar because I was on my own, and I sat at the bar having this stunning food cooked over this beautiful hardwood grill. And I just started obviously talking to the people around me, and the guy next to me, his job was importing French oak to make barrels for these people. And I didn't realize that the restaurant itself have their own micro winemaking project. And the Sidewinder that Miles buys in the film is their kind of house wine. It was absolutely delicious. And the fact that this little restaurant could make wine was so foreign to me as a person back then that it was a magical moment. So, yeah, the Santa Ynez Valley is I feel passionately for it. I really love it, and you're so close to the sea that with these Santa Rita Hills, which are at the west side, the fog.
No need for that.
Throughout the bulk of the summer is covered in fog. It's really, really, really cold and misty. And that's exactly what you need in Southern California. Well, not Southern California, but you're near LA here.
Yeah.
You're only a couple of hours from LA. This is hot. This is Malibu. And it's cold. It's properly cold. So that's the only way you can get Burgundian style Pinot Noir from what's so much higher up in the world.
And also don't put 15% Zinfandel or Petit Syrah in it.
Yeah, exactly. And of course, what do they say in that film? Very famously,
they say roll credits.
I don't think those.
No, I'm not saying that.
He's not saying it.
I'm not swearing on TV.
Well, you don't have to swear. You can bleep it out.
Okay, but I am drinking some effing Merlot,
yes,
so
okay,
it doesn't really work, does it?
Merlot. Poor old Merlot. This one comes from just north of the Santa Ynez Valley, Santa Barbara. Still right there, it is the Paso Robles or Paso Robles region.
So Paso Robles is it's the place to keep an eye out for. It's been around for a while.
Yeah.
It's been around for a while. But Paso and Lodi have kind of been...
should we get the last tasting notes up for the...
Did you not do that?
So this is the Sandy tasting notes. Lots of cherry because of the whole bunch stuff that they do.
Well, I'll have a pound for every time you said whole bunch. I'll be very rich.
But look at the diversity of tasting notes there.
Nice.
Amazing sausage. Everything from sausage to cherry cola. How can you get that in a drink that's 2 years old? Sausage, chili, cherry lips, seafood. Nice. I like it. It's great.
Gherkin.
Yeah. So cracking taste notes on a cracking wine. And great. Merlot, sorry to interrupt you.
No, you're not. You've never, ever been sorry to interrupt me, and that is a fact. So Paso and Lodi, we're kind of looking, southern, but moving in some of the areas a little bit flatter, and sometimes has been associated with big, over-extracted, jammy wines, bulk wines, big
lots
production,
of big
lots of just
17% alcohol.
go and drink it and get on with it.
Yeah.
But there are, as with everything, there's these little pockets that do things really well. J. Law, not a small winery by any stretch of the imagination. They're a big winery, but that allows them to do cool projects. So this is their 2018 Los Osos Merlot. I was hoping Los Osos it would be the Bears, but it's not the Bears. It's to do with the style of soil that's underneath the ground.
It's made of bears, probably.
Barely.
We do actually. Before we
us.
start getting into this, we should probably give us a break from our stupidness because the winemaker actually did put together a little.
Yeah, we could talk about it, but we could let the guy who actually made it talk about it, and then we'll come back to
last video.
Not talk about it.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah,
Are you going to change your shirt?
No.
Okay. Bye.
My name is Brendan Wood. I'm the red winemaker at J. Lohr Vineyards and Wines in Paso Robles, California. I'm happy to talk to you about our Los Osos Merlot. Paso Robles is a great area for growing Merlot. This particular Merlot comes from the El Pomar region, which is a little bit cooler. It's really the ideal topography, climate, and soil for growing benchmark true to varietal Merlot. The blend is mostly Merlot, of course, but then we also like to use Malbec as a primary blender for this wine. Malbec brings this nice hibiscus aroma as well as nice juiciness to the palate. When we ferment these grapes, we like to do a whole berry fermentation. This really helps to make a nice red fruit character on the wine without extracting too much tannin from the seeds. We're really going after a nice texture on our Los Osos Merlot. It's aged for 12 months in 100% American oak barrels. About 18% is a new American medium toast barrels. And really what that brings to the wine is just a nice little bit of creme brulee, vanilla aroma, a little bit of hazelnut. It's really just meant to elevate the fruit. The really cool thing about Los Osos Merlot is it just has a lot of food pairing options. Goes great with a rack of lamb, a roasted chicken, can go great with just something like spaghetti and meatballs. It's just such a versatile wine when pairing with foods at the dinner table. I really hope you enjoy your next glass. Cheers.
Interesting introduction.
Yeah. So the point is that there is Merlot can be boring, and
Well, I think it mostly is.
It can. It's safe, isn't it? It's safe. It's done. It's easy drinking. However, this guy, the Merlot is good, but there is a little bit of Malbec and a little bit of Cabernet.
1% Cab, so
1% Cabernet Sauvignon. Right. So it's 1% epic. 99% could be a bit boring.
1% green and herbaceous, and 85% delicious. But Merlot gets a bad name. The fundamental grape in most Saint-Emilion wines, most right bank wines, and I think we're getting people who are saying it can be boring, but it's lovely. We've got people who are saying it's still easy to drink, which is the characteristic of Merlot. It's low in tannin.
Julia, your point about are you the only one with no qualms? We're here drinking it all by ourselves anyway, so don't you worry about that. There's some wine that we can jump and go, should pair with food, shouldn't pair with food, but this is what we've got to enjoy and drink, and if you've not got any food with it, it's okay.
I like this a lot. This is in 3D, and it has so much depth to it because they've used a lot of great. They put care into it.
Are we going to get glasses and make the online wine tasting club in 3D?
3D, yeah, nice.
No.
I think, but that's one of those things. A wine that's made. Merlot is a grape that kind of hides a multitude of sins. In many ways, it's very easy to grow.
And it's very versatile.
It's versatile. It copes with different conditions. And if all you're doing is buying in grapes of Merlot from across a huge range of different vineyards and putting them into a press and just chucking in the yeast that they tell you that's the recipe, it's going to come out really boring. This is not. This, they have put a bit of effort into it. And that, again, is that American spirit coming through. Please don't say metaverse. No, there is no mention of the metaverse here. That's banned, and certainly not Mark Zuckerberg. But the other thing they've used American oak, and American oak often gets a bad name, doesn't it?
Yeah,
we like that in Rioja.
We do like that in Rioja, and we like that in American Chardonnay. We just do it. It's the right thing for the right point.
Oh, Mark, there's any number of TOWDC wine glasses. There are some wonderful ones available from Jancis Robinson. We like her, but they're quite expensive. So maybe we can do one day. Absolutely. This is an interesting one. Rowntree's Fruit Crumbs. Okay, I'm going to have to look at this now because I get chocolate from the nose. Massively chocolate there. Oh, we should get the tasting notes up.
You should get the tasting notes up.
Okay.
So it does have that sweety kind of thing.
Yeah.
And also, and I get the Roundtree fruit gum thing that you want to have a sip and then you want to chew it almost. You really do. I get that.
No, it's not fruit gums. It's Rowntree's wine gums, isn't it? That's what it is. It tastes like some of those. There is that taste with one of the Rowntree's wine gums specifically. I'm absolutely sure of that now. Very cool. Zalto do good wine glasses, absolutely. Can I pick out
Zalto good, Spiegelauer really good.
Spiegel? Yeah, of course.
Riedel,
Riedel, yeah.
Riedel, I think are the best wine glasses, but they're not.
But you have to get them. They break. All
Yeah,
the time.
you've got to buy a new one every week.
Yes. Yeah.
And I can't afford that.
Again, for what we often think is a very simple wine, you think of your.
So you've got fruit
Merlot from
pastels
the
up here as well. See,
look at that range of different tasting notes. That's wonderful to see, and I love to see some of the complex ones like chocolate covered raisins, which is really cool. Again, it sums up the fruit and the chocolatiness that comes from the earth and the oak.
So we got coconut there. With coconut with an unsure. Could it be?
No,
But
yeah, absolutely.
But coconut is when we talk about American oak, it's vanilla, cedar, cloves, coconut. That's your WSET 4 markers for oak. So coconut is absolutely.
It's spot on, and you do get it in this when it's 100% American oak. So if you didn't get it with this, then then they might be lying to you. But
No, the point on Zalto versus Riedel. Riedel are if I'm going out to a restaurant and want to drink wine and they're not my responsibility anymore. Yes, they're the class.
Yeah,
if they're in my house, I'm probably actually better just to have my wine in a sippy cup with my kids.
We weren't getting the food pairing with our veggie butternut squash based supper, which also sounds delicious. I love butternut squash. It's perhaps the one vegetable that could really convince me. But anyway, having fetched some salami, it's definitely nailed it. Yep. Okay. Yeah, it needs something a little bit more earthy to go with that.
Yeah.
But that's because it's a quality Merlot. So yeah, J. Law. Let's talk Paso Robles very quickly. Like you say, was famous for doing 17% of its infidels from producer like
and still is Turley.
Turley, yeah, the classic example there. And it is still famous for that.
And I'm not knocking those wines are epic.
They're great.
Those wines are epic,
amazing.
but they are a particular style of wow. You have two. If you go and anyone who drinks large glasses, you have 2 large glasses of Turley's Infidel, and that's the same as drinking a pint of port almost.
Yeah,
that's a good night in.
It's a good night in. But we should probably talk about Tablas Creek, shouldn't we? Because they are towards that west end of it, just like the Santa Rita Hills are in Santa Ynez Valley. That west coast, the closer you get to the west coast, there is this band of fog and mist that goes down. So, top tip for California: don't go in the middle of summer expecting to drive a beautiful sunny route like you always see in the movies down the west coast. You won't get it. It's freezing. We one trip we did in September, and we drove down, and they call it Carl the Fog. It actually has a name. That's what it's called. And Carl rolls in from the west.
So is it Carl forever? It's not like America when they name each different store.
No,
it's always
Carl. It's always Carl the Fog.
Always Carl.
It even had a Twitter account at one point.
Wow.
So Carl the Fog was going, yeah, screw you guys. It's really hot today, and you're freezing. So Carl the Fog would sit on the west coast, and you go inland, and it's 40 degrees, and you go to the coast, and it's 3 degrees, and it makes such a difference.
They need that for that style of wine. If they didn't have that, you wouldn't grow Pinot because it would be overripe, split, sunburnt,
and
dead.
So where you get to that middle ground, where you get a little bit of that fog, but not enough to cause the disease pressures that they get. Like when it's wet, you normally get stuff growing, and it's only because they've got a bit of sea breeze that it blows off. But when you get to Paso Robles, and you sit there on that kind of left end of it, the cusp of it, you get actually Rhone-like conditions. So much so that you can grow proper GSM blends. You can grow some of the lesser known.
So that good at Rhone blends, the people, the Perrin family who own Chateau Beaucastel might have decided to try and do the same thing in Paso Robles with Tablas Creek. Something like that.
That's what I was leading.
Was that your?
That was the one. And
I was happy to get you to that point.
So it's I've just seen a great comment. So yes, some of these wine glasses are super expensive, and it's a very good point, and it's really painful when you break one. But
especially if it gets you right there.
But we've got an even better comment, which is you get a free upgrade for every glass of wine you have. I've never thought of it that way.
That is genius.
That's absolute.
I think the wines we're sending out to people are quite good. Imagine how good they're going to be when I get some Zalto glasses in here for the next stage.
We should be on commission.
Does that mean we can put all the tasting prices up if we send them out with some Zaltos?
Well, there you go.
Happy days.
Goodness me. We should get on to our last wine because those were so cool. I really, really enjoyed it, and I hope that you found a new love for Merlot, and we haven't just thought, I'm not drinking Merlot anymore. This wine is made to make your mouth water. Oh, that's lovely to hear, and it's a lush wine. I really like that. But we're going to another lush wine. I think you're going to love wine number 6, especially if you've got a slightly sweet tooth, because this is cool. Well, we've done Quaddy before. We have listed Quaddy before.
You got a glass?
I should pass you a glass. There you go.
Otherwise, you're going to have a weird blend in there.
Weird.
Before we dive onto this,
yeah,
I want to chuck this out here because.
Yeah. I'm going to let you talk.
About this, I'm going to talk about something else first. We have done it. You guys have supported us for a long time, and it's been huge amounts of fun, and we are online. However, we have done for the first time, we have invited some people down to the winery to hang out with their tasting pack. So, hi, Ian and James, you can get a shout out on the show. Look at that, you're over there.
Should we get one of them to come in and say what they thought at the end?
No, they are not. They're the other side of the door for a reason. What to do is. You guys are great, and you have your living rooms, and it's a very comfortable place. But we are considering potentially taking the Online Wine Club on the road to somewhere. So we'd love to know where you're at, where you'd like us to come to, and if you actually want to come and drink wine with us and hang out. If not, we'll stay this side of the screen, But we are quite nice people in reality. So we're thinking about trying to, in a world that went online very, very quickly, to try and bring some bits and pieces offline, so we can get out and about and drink a glass of wine and have a chat. And
we're going to shout out for Wales. I think we should go down to the farm in Wales. Let's do that. That'd be great.
That's international wine tasting.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, we're just in an online world that people want to get out and about again. We'd love to come and see you guys and hang out and go from there. Yeah, we'd love to come into London.
We'd love to go to London. We've had a call for Oxford as well. We've had another call. We might do one in East Anglia.
Oh, because
the only way is Essex is going to be.
So Oxford, it might not be him, but I am hosting a masterclass at the Oxford Wine Festival this year. We're doing a masterclass on Rioja. I might drag him in, otherwise you're stuck with just me, so go and have a look. Glasgow, that's international as well.
My wife allows me.
Yeah, look at this. International. And you can all come and be guest hosts. You're well done. New Zealand. But yeah, so anyway, that's where we want to get to. We want to come and hang out with you guys. You can always come to Tring. Always come to Tring. Tring's lovely. But anyway, should we talk about this? So we'll talk about dessert wine.
Mr. Quaddy.
So Andrew Quaddy used to make fireworks, as you do. And if you've been on the tasting before, you've heard this story. And we've done his. He does a port style wine, which used to be made with Zinfandel, but then it worked well, so he decided to actually bring in the indigenous Portuguese grape, the Tinto the Tinto Roriz, the Touriga Franca, that kind of stuff. And basically, he found this little scrub of orange muscat that no one was doing anything with, and he said, "Can I do something with this?" And he did. So he is the only winery that's dedicated solely to a range of dessert wines in the US.
Fortified.
Dessert and fortified. So he does an orange muscat, a black muscat. He does the port style wine. He makes a couple of vermouths, dry vermouth and a sweet vermouth, which is a really cool cocktail. Really, really easy one. It's 1 part dry vermouth, 1 part sweet vermouth. Stick it together with a little bit of bitters. It's absolutely phenomenal for a cool little American cocktail. But this just shows where things can be cool and weird and different. Like, you look at where dessert wines come in the rest of the world. You go to France and we're looking at either Côte de Léon, which has to be Chenin Blanc, or in Sauternes, which must be the Semillon Sauvignon blend.
Kind of.
Indeed. Well, not even kind of. Definitely of.
Definitely, yeah.
But this just shows that you can take something that's weird and wonderful that you might not have
and grown
normally.
In the desert, for God's sake.
Grown in the desert. So we're up near Fresno here.
Yeah.
So it's in the middle of the Central Valley. It's hot. But what that allows is it allows the grapes to hang on the vine, dry out,
Yeah.
get rid of a load of the water, and get this real tensity. Yeah, orange marmalade, absolutely. It's sweet, it's tangy, it's delicious. Is it the most complicated wine in the world? Absolutely not. But is this dangerous to have a bottle of this in your fridge and go, I'm just going to have a glass of this? You're not just going to have a glass of this.
I don't know what you're talking
It's
about.
in, it's done, it's gone. So
We've got some incredible range of recommendations from Glastonbury to Aberdeen to Wales. Yes, excellent. Central Berkshire. That's probably a little bit closer. There are some great local wine producers here. That's
so
for sure.
the question is there anyone on the chat tonight that does travel that can organise a tour for us? That would be really helpful.
That'd be so good.
We'll do an online wine tasting club roadshow.
Yeah, I like
That would
that.
be
I like
fun.
that idea. I think
That would be
great.
fun. You could buy tickets for all of them and come around with us. We'll get a tour bus.
What? He used to make fireworks, didn't
Yes,
he?
yes, he did. So he used to make
How
fireworks.
did you go from?
So-
I mean, I could say, how do you go from making mobile phones to making?
because
wine, but-
he made fireworks, and now his current project is also explosive.
Yes, indeed. I'm sure that pun was
That's
thought out over a long distance.
Long time.
But I, dessert wines quite often try to follow the. You think of your wonderful, absolutely delicious wines from Burton in Riverina in Australia, trying to do basically the Sauternes kind of thing in a different country. This is different. I mean, there are Italian people making Muscat. There are all sorts of people making Muscat, but it just
It's a hugely unique style.
yeah.
There's not another dessert wine out there that I go, if you like this, you might like that,
No.
because it's so absolutely different. So you're checking what you've got somewhere to be. Bored of me. He's bored of me.
I'm not. I'm
needs to get
I'm just seeing the comments. But yeah, I agree. I think for me the big defining character of that, and we drove past Fresno. In fact, we stopped at a McDonald's very near Fresno. That's how frustrating it is to travel with your family and go past these cool places and not be able to stop
Yeah,
at
but
wineries
McDonald's
every time.
McDonald's is that classic American cultural
Yeah,
dinner.
okay, absolutely. Oxidized flavors, yes, you do get the bruised apple kind of flavors. Yeah,
That
I
nuttiness,
agree.
absolutely. And you've
I
got this
agree.
kind of almost like tertiary thing with,
But you think about
chocolatey
port
and-
wines, you think about Madeira wines. It's the same, isn't it? They deliberately bring in those kind of oxidized flavors. It's very, very true.
without a doubt. So I think we're kind of getting the stage. What we're going to do tonight to change it up a little bit, what we would like everyone to do
Bit different.
is we're going to get everyone to vote for their favourite.
Yes.
I know there's some people who like to sneak into the website beforehand, so if you have, you're in big trouble. But what we're hoping that people do is I want to see everyone vote for their favourite, and then what we're going to do is we're going to pop up the prices and see how that's what you vote for your favourite
We've
afterwards.
threatened to do this before, and we're actually doing it now. So
We just want
How
to
does
see
price
how
affect
does
your
price
perception?
affect your perception of the quality.
Yeah.
So just favourite wine of the night, just for bang, this is delicious. I want
Oh.
to drink the rest of it. And then we're going to pop the prices up and see how that changes people's opinions.
And remember, it's not how the wines compare to just each other; it's how the wines compare to their peers at those kind of price points as well. Because if you compare this to £4.25 Chilean Merlot, that's going to be different to how it compares to a £1,000 bottle of Petrus. Yeah, all of these wines have big. Variation in their prices. When you look at just a grape, it means nothing, frankly.
I think that's the thing. People go, I don't like Chardonnay. I'm like, but there's
Yeah.
some great, I don't like Shiraz. And you go, well, it depends where you are on the
Yeah,
scale.
it really
But
does depend,
it's the same with any good. Oh, how much is too much to spend on a car? Well, it depends
yeah.
what you
It
want.
really does, yeah. And
Triple T over here.
Triple T.
Yeah, 2 Tesla Taylor.
2 Tesla Taylor. Thank you. I had a feeling that was what it was going to be. Okay.
That was quite nice
Well,
for
I'm just
me.
trying to do my bit to
Could've
help
been
the polar
anything
bears.
else. What, you drive them round?
I drive them round, exactly. To give it's basically Uber
Okay,
for polar bears.
should we have a look and see where we're at for favourite wine
let's
right
do
now?
that. Let's switch this on. Ooh!
Oh,
What? Wow,
Holy
that's very interesting. Goodness me.
Goodness me, indeed. All right.
Okay, Paul.
That's not where I thought that was going
That
to
was
go.
not where I thought that was going to go.
Okay, so let's
Very
pop.
interesting.
So let's pop the prices up quickly.
Well, there are still people entering, so I'm going to let them do a little bit more. Let's
If you've
have a
not,
look and see
if
how
you've
many-
not, if you've not entered your answer at home, we're waiting on you. That's all we're
we
saying.
are, yeah. Get your answers in.
Answers on a postcard? No, we don't do that anymore, do we?
Mad.
Mad. Because what was your wine of the night? Because most people have voted, so no, you're not going to get swayed here now.
I mean, I obviously, well, I'm literally wearing the shirt, so I know this is, the Pinot Noir is that's my bag baby, as it were, and but I love so many of the other ones, I really do. It's changing. The lead has changed. Goodness me. But I love the fact that just quickly to go back to Sideways, because Sideways finishes
I'm
having
going
had
sideways
Captain
with this bottle.
Snob. Captain Snob says, "I'm not drinking any effing Merlot." If the ladies order Merlot, he ends up in a burger restaurant eating a cheeseburger
With a little Dixie cup
with
of
a plastic cup of
Merlot.
Merlot. Yes, in fact, an incredibly expensive. I can't remember which chateau it was, but
Petrus,
I
wasn't
think it was Petrus, wasn't it? Yeah,
it?
yeah.
I'm a
I think
wine
so.
person, not a movie geek. Sorry.
But yeah, he
So
was
I think
drinking.
I think this has stayed for a little while. Oh look, the menu you mentioned that Sandy's jumped up.
Oh,
three.
there we go.
Yeah.
That's because people have taste. Absolutely. Okay, so let's take that as the final results there. And I don't know what I've just done. That's very exciting.
You need
So
to put the
the
prices up.
Chardonnay was not everybody's favourite,
But it was somebody's
but
favourite.
it did pretty well.
There's not a
The
massive,
Merlot has
there's
done
not a massive
brilliantly.
gap.
Pinot Gris has done brilliantly.
But
I
this is
think
the
we're
joy-
going to move this on. We're going to move it to when you know the price. So don't answer yet because we haven't shown you the price. How do I get back to the screen?
You might need to alt tab it.
Yeah. Sorry, this has done something very strange indeed.
Alex Taylor's clicked a button
I've
and
clicked
ruined
a
it.
button and ruined. There we are. Okay, right. So prices are now up. So the
Go.
Pinot Gris is $17.95. The Longmeadow Chardonnay, I don't be feeling is going to be jumping up in popularity at £30, but that's the reality.
So
of
are you
Napa
announcing the
Chardonnay.
prices like nobody at home can read them?
On Ace,
Continue, keep going.
I think that's very on Ace. Sunday, pricey, but
But it's Pinot
Compare
Noir,
it
and
to-
if you put that against a Grand Cru,
it beat
Premier Cru
150 quid Premier Cru Burgundies. The Merlot, $23.95.
nice value for the quality.
Great value for the quality. And the Muscat,
Yeah.
what an absolute.
The only thing to
steal for
remember with the
fine wine.
Muscat,
it's a half bottle.
it is a half bottle, but dessert wines, because of the intensity and the lack of water and a lot of grapes make a bottle, it costs a little bit of money. So here we go. Here we go. Dun,
So I'm
dun,
going
dun.
to turn it off just so that people can't see it. And if you were to go to California tomorrow, what
do you mean if?
Now,
Now,
you're going to New Orleans.
Yeah, but
so
that's
there are lots
not-
of vineyards down there.
that's not really a wine country, is it?
Well, you say that, but I'm sure there's a vineyard down there somewhere because someone will have planted some in their back garden and someone will have been doing something cool.
Maybe.
I went halfway up Mount Rainier in Washington State, and just as I got to about the last house before it turned into a national park, it said wine tastings here from our vineyard, and they had a little polytunnel out, and they had made a dessert wine Chardonnay. Again,
As you do.
as you do up a thing.
Anyway, you had a question.
Shall we bring this
well,
up?
you had
Oh,
a
yeah.
question for me. What was it- what
Where,
was
so
the
where
actual
would
question?
you be going in California if you were going tomorrow? Just to avoid showing the answers.
I think where I think is really, once again, it depends on the style that you want to drink. But I think where it makes some really, really, really cool wine is Anderson Valley, going a little bit further north.
Yes,
That little
good
bit,
call.
it's a little bit cool climate. Quartet's up there,
Yeah.
who's a fantastic sparkling producer. Domaine Anderson, they make great Pinot Noir, great
And
Chardonnay,
Chardonnay, yeah.
in a really kind of absolutely American style, but very, very elegant. So that's a great place to go. Another cool area for somewhere a bit different is Carneros, because that straddles the base of Sonoma and Napa in
Yeah.
the south. So you end up getting the best of both worlds. But the thing with California is, if you want a big, bold style, get to Napa, get to Paso. If you're looking for a more elegant style, let's look at Sonoma, West Sonoma, Anderson Valley.
Yeah.
So,
Or Santa Rita.
and I'm an equal opportunities drinker, so I shall
Fair
do
enough.
many trips to many Californias and drink many, many wines.
Shall we put them out then,
yeah.
Misery? Let's put them out. There's a great recommendation.
Roll credits, put them out there, Misery. I'll show them the
No.
answers. So there we go. So the J
Pinot Gris takes the lead.
The J jumped
Wow.
back up on the value,
Fantastic.
but not a massive
massive
change. Not a massive change. So you like what you like, and the price doesn't matter.
Well,
because
that's
you're
nice to know, isn't it? That it
professionals.
doesn't matter too much. So very cool indeed.
So once again, if you like the wines, dive in. There's a link to the website, so you can pop in and
that
get
up. You've
them.
obviously got it on
You
your
can scan it in.
Type the code OWTC to get the free shipping. And but yeah,
The only thing is, if you want on Ace, I'd get it now because there's only 6
bottles.
bottles, and there'll probably only be 4 bottles.
we haven't
by the
got
end of
much
the
of
night.
the Sunday either, have we?
I can get more though.
We
So if
can
you
get
desperately
more,
want some, and if for those who are like the Sandy and interested in going a little bit further up, give me a shout, pop me an email because I can try and source some either Bloomsfield or Lacote and let you know how much a case is, and we can get it out to you.
And it's it's definitely worth a try. It really is. It is absolutely world class. If you've got the fact that Master Sommeliers and Jancis Robinson, Master of Wine, they've voted these guys, and Jamie and me, Jamie, who's international talent of emerging talent in wine last year, and me, who's a bloke wearing a terrible t-shirt. So yes, we have one last question, which was, have you had a nice night? And will you tell your friends about it? Because my goodness, these nights are so much fun. We love them. We love it to bits. We love it doing it live with you. We don't mind if you do it later on because you're drinking cool wine. And just
So what's coming up?
Let us
So
know.
we should say what's coming up.
Yeah, next on Discoverers.
So next on Discoverers, we're doing Wines of Portugal, which is really kind of cool. We've got some really, really good support. It's Portuguese Wine Month, so I'm doing 3 interviews with winemakers next week. So there's going to be a huge amount. The world's getting back to normal, so people are getting out and about. So we're going to be getting some more winemaker content. I know we've had this little bit of interim where the world's gone back and there's been harvest and all that kind of stuff. So my apologies for that, but I'm getting back to talking to people, which is great. On the Adventurers, we are doing Towie next month. The only way is Essex. So all things Essex. I'm hoping.
And it's not. It's more. We're stretching it a little bit because well, it's all about East Anglia, frankly. But if we could do the pun,
Towie.
So the only East Anglia. I think that's my top tip for still wine.
Lots of cool wine. A few weeks ago, I was judging down at the Independent English Wine Awards. Some really, really cool stuff. So we've got some great stuff coming for
Alex
that.
Taylor.
With my favourite Alex Taylor, to be fair. So if he's watching, Alex Taylor, you're in my top 2 Alex Taylors. You are as well.
Not specified.
But we are yabbering on. If you've enjoyed it, tell people, get people involved. Buy the wines, drink the wine, shout. If you've not enjoyed it and we think we can do things better, let us know. It's your club. And I've decided I'm going to have a ridiculous pun shirt every time. He'll have a loud shirt, I'll have a pun. So any great wine puns, send them my way. And if your pun gets on a shirt, we might send you a free tasting. How about that?
Wonderful.
So that is us for the night. It's been a pleasure. We're going to roll credits. I would say watch the credits all the way through.
I wouldn't.
And it will be.
There's no song this time.
There's no song.
We didn't feel it was right this time.
Hey, if you watch all the credits, it'll just be 2 minutes of your life you'll never get back. But let us know. You can be the judge of that. Have a great night. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Good night, guys.